I think the biggest misconception is that people don't realize how powerful it is. You know, it's kind of seen right now as something that treats low back pain. There's spiritual things happening. There's like really intense shifts happening, not only in like my perspective, but also like just feeling like I'm empowered in this world. Connecting to like my higher self is so accessible, and letting go of all of the stuff that keeps me stuck in my life.
Welcome to the Just Live podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Stevens, and I'm inviting you in on my personal journey of learning and discovering how to live a life with more connection, joy, and purpose. I'll be sitting down with people from all walks of life to dive into topics including trauma, mental health, mindfulness, the nuances of love and relationships, and much more. I hope these conversations empower you to expand on what serves you, release what doesn't, and just live. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Just Live podcast. I am your host, Olivia Stevens, and I'm very excited to share this next episode with you. I sit down with my very own acupuncturist, Gena Roberge, owner of Radiant Wellness. She's a licensed acupuncturist and a Chinese herbalist and has been practicing since 2011. Gena's an incredible practitioner. I've been seeing her for over a year now, and I love this episode because we really dive into what acupuncture is, all the different things that it can treat, and some of the misconceptions about acupuncture, as well as a few other really cool topics. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to share this episode with anyone that you think may benefit from it or it could resonate with. And thank you. Take care. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So we are here at Radiant Wellness. This is where I get my acupuncture done by you.
I can't say that. You can say that.
Yeah. I've been coming here for over a year now.
Has it been that long?
It has been that long.
Okay.
I think I started coming last July of 2022.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of healing that's happened here.
It's true.
So I'm excited to share with everybody a little bit more about acupuncture.
Okay.
So can you tell some people that may not be very familiar with the modality, what is acupuncture and what is it used for?
Oh, this is such a hard question. This is going to be the hardest question.
Yeah.
So it's energy healing. To simplify it, there's pathways along the body that contain acupuncture points, and each acupuncture point does a lot of different things. And there are treatments that we kind of come up with that treat the body, mind, and spirit, sometimes all three. And so generally that's what we're doing. We're treating if someone has low back pain, we're doing specific points. If they're coming in with anxiety or coming in with some serious soul sicknesses, then we're treating that. So I could go on and on for about an hour, but that's the synopsis of that. Yeah.
I know. I feel like I had a misunderstanding of everything that acupuncture encompasses, because I really thought it was just for physical pain, but I guess I didn't really understand either the kind of mind, body, spirit connection with physical pain and how emotional turmoil and challenges can manifest as physical pain.
Yeah.
And I was referred to you by a therapist that I used to see. But I think I had like some shoulder pain or something and was coming in just to address that. I remember sitting down in your chair and you're like, okay, so why are you here? Like, what's going on? And I was talking about just physical symptoms. And you're like, okay, but how are you feeling? What's really going on? And then the floodgates opened. I think I just started crying because I was holding in a lot. When somebody comes in, how do you start a treatment plan for them or determine what they need?
Yeah, I mean, every treatment plan is so different depending on the person. And it's a truly holistic medicine. So like some people are just here for pain, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
My jam is more of the deeper stuff, just because that's what I'm into and what I love treating. And I get to see people kind of grow. I mean, it's wonderful to watch pain go away, and that's really cool. and some people think I'm a magician, but yeah, so the treatment plan could be just so different. So I could say, come in for 6 weeks and we'll treat this low back pain, or maybe just come in once a week for a while and we'll just kind of evaluate in a couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more detail exactly what you're doing when you're placing the needles and what's happening?
Yeah, so think of the channels throughout the whole body, and the points along those channels kind of contain energy. And so when we're putting the needle in, we're kind of accessing that energy, and either the energy is kind of stuck and we're trying to move it, or we're trying to like build more energy in that spot, or it's there's the points that are communicating with the brain to kind of like tell the nervous system to relax, the circulatory system to relax, to boost the immune system. So it's communicating with the rest of the body, specifically the systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We could go as complicated as you want to go.
I know. Well, I lay here sometimes and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, but I feel things, and a lot of emotions move for me when we're working together, which is very helpful because I feel like that's my biggest struggle is working through kind of stuck emotions and feelings of depression or anxiety and things like that.
Yeah.
So if someone is coming in for more of kind of those symptoms, what does your treatment kind of look like overall?
So we do a lot of different diagnostic. Well, I'll feel the pulses, and there's technically 6 pulses on each hand that we're trained to feel for. Mm-hmm. So we're feeling for quantity. So we're checking to see if it's rapid or slow. And then there's different qualities on the pulses that we're feeling for. Sometimes we look at the tongue, and that gives us like a map of the body. And then obviously we chat it up and see like what's going on with you. And I kind of get the energetics of like what's going on with you. I'm specifically a 5-element acupuncturist. So I'm feeling for the elements that are living within you, and what elements are kind of a little bit kind of dominating, and which ones are kind of deficient. And so I'm kind of thinking about a lot, as my patient kind of comes in. And so once I gather all that information, I've been doing this for 10 years. So after a while, you kind of like points just come to you. You're like, okay, well, this treatment is just like, coming to me, and I just know that this is what will help her, or really kind of like shift the energy for you. And so I'll put the points in, and there's usually like, I don't know, 10 to 30 points total that I do. Some people do less, some people do more. Every acupuncturist is very different. I should say that, like, we're all artists in our own way. Yeah, it's a very artistic. It can be really scientific. It could be really artistic. And I personally am a little bit of mix of both. So yeah, we'll treat that and then check your pulses and just kind of feel the energy. Like I can just feel it in the room sometimes. It's really cool.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
You said you've been doing this about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me how you got into the industry and a little bit of your background?
So my undergrad was psychology. So I'm really,
I didn't know that.
Flavor.
That's so interesting.
Why I'm into the anxiety and the spiritual stuff. And it just wasn't fitting for me. And one day I had a kink in my neck, and my brother-in-law was like, go see this acupuncturist I see. And I saw him, and I left there like, what just happened? I feel like a different person. Also, like, should I drive? Because I feel really out of it.
Yeah.
So something just clicked in me, like, maybe this is what I should check out. And I went to a school, and I got to sit in on a class with the founder, Bob Duggan. I always have to name drop him. Late Bob Duggan. He was my mentor and just an incredible person. He was like a frontier in getting acupuncture into this country. And he just made a huge difference for so many of us. And he was leading this class and talking about a lot of things, but what really hit me was how he was empowering patients to learn about their body and learn about their dis-ease, and learning about like how to kind of like fix or heal themselves instead of like me telling you, this is what you should do, like asking more into it and allowing them to kind of come to the conclusions themselves.
Yeah.
And learning that the body is wise and your symptoms are your teachers instead of like seeing your symptoms as like a pain that just won't go away. It's like your body's communicating with you all the time. And so I was like, sign me up. And the rest is history. Like especially when you walked into that building, like you just feel it. Like everything was different. People were just on another level energetically. You could feel the vibrations of it.
That's so neat. I know I mentioned a few misconceptions I had about acupuncture. Are there any that are like brought to your attention on a regular basis that you feel sometimes you have to clear up or clarify?
I think the biggest misconception is that people don't realize how powerful it is. You know, it's kind of seen right now as something that treats low back pain. And, you know, I personally getting treatment myself, and I could say that about a lot of my patients, but there's spiritual things happening. There's like really intense shifts happening, not only in like my perspective, but also like just feeling like I am empowered in this world. Connecting to like my higher self is so accessible, and letting go of all of the stuff that keeps me stuck in my life. So it's like, that's kind of where I like to stay in my treatments as a patient, but also as a practitioner. How can we shift this person's perspective and point of view and allow them to continue to grow on a deeper level?
Yeah. So you could say in very basic terms that acupuncture helps move things that are stuck.
I mean, truly, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's energy. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I wanted to go back. You had mentioned something about the tongue. You look at people's tongues.
Yeah.
Can you explain more about that?
Yeah. So
I was just talking to a friend yesterday and asking them if they use a tongue scraper. So that's why I wanted to revisit that.
Don't do a tongue scraper before you get acupuncture.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you're new to this practitioner. So there's a map on the body of the tongue. So the tip is the heart, the sides are the lungs, the very sides are like spleen, and there's liver, gallbladder. So like we're thinking about all of the systems in the body, and what's going on in the tongue in those specific regions gives us a really good idea of like what's going on.
Really? So someone can stick their tongue out and you could like look at it and say, something's wrong with your liver or you're having spleen issues? Really?
Yeah.
Who came up with that? Who mapped the tongue out?
Okay, I mean, so this medicine is 5,000 years old.
Okay.
So like, I mean, someone knows, but I don't, of like who came up with putting needles in people. It's ancient, but I'm really hoping that these diagnostic tools start to be used by Western medical practitioners, because we can like spot things and feel things much sooner than when they become problems.
Right.
So like if someone is, you know, getting some major health issues, I might be able to spot something and say, hey, go to your doctor and get some blood work or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, depending on what's going on.
Is there anything specifically in like past patients where you've spotted something that turned out to be really serious?
Nothing really serious. One patient is sticking out in my mind of like something showing up on their tongue, and they ended up having fibroids. Oh. So it was like a fullness, and like the color is also an interesting thing about the tongue. Like if it's like purple or blue, that means there's more stagnation. If it's like super red, there's more heat in the body.
Can you tell me about my tongue, like right now?
Sure. That's like a magic trick. Okay, so if it's a little bit pale, there's a little bit of blood deficiency.
Okay, I haven't been taking my iron. I ran out of it.
Yeah, always on you.
Okay, so a little iron deficient.
Yeah. A little dry, like you could hydrate a little bit more. There's nothing glaring. Like there's nothing that's like, get to the doctor and go underneath like this. Yeah, a little bit of like blue in those sublingual veins, and that means a little coldness,
Okay.
which a lot of women have. We don't heat up our lower belly enough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like heat up your uterus and your period will be happier.
Heat up my uterus?
I mean,
how do I heat up my uterus?
Well, it's partially about like foods you eat.
Okay.
Some foods are a little bit cold or dampening, and some foods are warming and nourishing.
So eat warmer foods.
Warmer, like cooked foods, staying away from like raw.
I had sushi last night.
Yeah, like, you can get away with a little bit more in the summer, but like a lot of like smoothies or salads, too many of those will kind of wreak havoc on your body because it's having to work extra hard, and it kind of like locks in some coldness. But just like heating pads will work wonders. Hot baths, things like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And another thing I wanted to revisit, you mentioned was you work with the elements. So you said 5 elements. Can you explain that in a little more detail?
Sure. So not all acupuncturists are 5-element acupuncturists, but the school I went to was kind of based around that. And, think about the elements in nature, and we are part of nature. So there's the elements within us. Mm-hmm. And like everyone has what we call a CF, which is like basically like, it's almost like astrology. This is kind of like the basis of your personality, or like how you like think or move in the world. And so like you might have one element that's within you that is dominant. And we've talked about this with you a little bit. So there's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Mm-hmm. Everyone has like a stack up. Like I might show up a little bit fiery, and then right behind it's earthy, and then wood, and then the rest. So I kind of like make a mental note of like what element is showing up in a person based off of like how they talk. Like is there like a groan in their voice? Is it like really up and like really bubbly and blah, blah, blah.
What would the differences in how they talk indicate, like which element is more prevalent in their personality?
Yeah, so like a fire is like really up. Okay. Think of like a flame. It's like, yeah. Earthy is really kind of like sing-songy, and this is how I talk. Interesting. And it's really motherly and nourishing, or like annoying, like cloying, like, and I should say within every element, there's like excess and deficiency and appropriate middle. What's next? Metal is like, you kind of see the voice go down and like, it just kind of goes down, it just like has an ending because metal is about letting go and releasing, and it can be about inspiration with a higher power, or it could be about grief, which is, anyway. So water is very groany. It's like everyone has like a groan to their voice, but a water person's always going to have that. And it's just kind of stay steady and just kind of like not fall like a metal would. And then wood is very flipped. Like I talk like this is how I want it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what else can you tell about somebody, when you read that element energy? What if someone has a little bit too much of something or not enough, then
what do I do?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's like if you are like a wood CF, then you're either going to have excess or deficiency typically. Like none of us are perfectly in balance. So we're going to tend towards an excess wood or a deficient wood. And like excess wood is going to be like someone that's super controlling, or like just can't stop, like always kind of hyper focus on getting things done, or just keep going, or can't stop planning, things like that. That's like a overactive wood. And a deficient wood is someone that's not standing up for themselves, or kind of a doormat, but like being pissed about it, So if someone's like a deficient wood, I'm gonna choose certain points that are wood points, invigorating wood points that are gonna give that backbone to that person. And so much of what I do is the talking and the coaching and illuminating what's going on and allowing them to kind of get to a point of feeling empowered and confident. And then I'll follow it up with the treatment.
What elements do you feel like you are?
Live in?
Yeah.
Fire. I mean,
Makes sense.
Yeah. Aries is fire. My sign is very fiery.
Yeah.
Fire is all about like connection and enjoyment and intimacy and fun. Like we like to pull all the fun out of life and pull all the connection. Small talk is not my thing. It's like the superficial is like I can't. Like, and I can spot someone who's not being authentic a mile away. That's like a fire superpower.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And then I think you've mentioned before, I have a lot of metal. What would you say
your stack up?
Yeah.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. So you have a lot of metal, you have a lot of fire.
Oh.
Yeah, because fire can be like a big flame or it can be like an ember. And you have this like...
my Venus is in Aries.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so loving, like how I like love and like my relationships are...
Yeah, because you're really authentic. There's different flavors of fire, and the fire that I see in you is very like heart, which is like a majestic kind of flavor of fire. And think of it as the Empress on the throne. Like you hold yourself with like, I know. Yeah, boosting you up.
I know, right? Keep going.
So yeah, it's very much like you hold yourself to a standard, and your connections are definitely not superficial, and that it's very much like people that meet you kind of just respect you, just based off like your energetics and like how you hold yourself and what you're kind of expecting from relationships. I would imagine you don't have very many like superficial friends, like that probably kills you.
It's very small.
Yeah. So yeah, it's about like being real, being authentic, and being powerful. So
okay. And metal, what is that?
So metal is it gets a bad rap because in people that kind of learn it really only think about the negative parts about it, in my experience anyway. And a metal is very like it's similar to the quality of fire that I was talking about. You're deciphering the pure from the impure. You're really good at like finding what fits and finding what doesn't. Metal people are really good at organizing things. It's like if you walk into a metals place, it's either like pristine and white and perfect. Like we've talked about this. And like you need that like clarity and space.
Yeah.
Or it's like an episode of Hoarders. Like, it's like they go the other way.
Depending on where you look. Like my car is an episode of Hoarders. Right. My house, no. Some closets maybe. But yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
So like you're able to either really let go of relationships that don't serve you, or you hold on to way too many of them. It's like whether you're in balance or out of balance, things like that.
Can you go through maybe 2 or 3 maybe popular points and explain what they do? I know a lot of times you put something on the top of my head.
Yeah.
You'll put something like in between my chest or in my wrists or my toes.
Very diagnostic, all these. So, yeah, I use this top one. It's called 100 Meetings. It's one of the more widely used points because it does so much. It's very, it could either be like a mind clearing or like a confidence boost or energy boost, or just allowing you to kind of connect with, a spirit, or not a spirit, but like the spirit world or a higher power or whatever, bring inspiration into your body. So there's a million other reasons to use that point, but that's kind of like what I like to use it for typically. There's a ton of points on the chest that are really spiritual, and they all have their own flavor. Some of them are really empowering and some of them are really relaxing and soothing. So I'll choose a point on the chest. If there's something spiritual going on, I'll choose a point based off of that. One of the most widely used points is spleen 6. It's on the ankle. It's really nourishing. Like, we all are pretty deficient, especially Americans, and our American diet and how we're overworked, and we're just doing too much.
Yeah.
And this point is really good for like nourishing that, but it also is it's a really good point for a women's health, PMS, endometriosis, PCOS, for moving the energy in the uterus, I guess you should say.
I guess this is different for everybody, but as far as frequency or how long someone would have to come and see you, I guess that really depends on why they're coming to see you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so individualized. It's like, if someone has really intense chronic pain, I'll want to see them every week for a while, you know, and sometimes we can get things to move pretty quickly, but sometimes it's going to take a while. It's like, the deeper it is, the longer it'll need to be treated.
And how often do you have to really understand what's going on, like outside of this room, to keep addressing or working through something with somebody?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, if someone has chronic pain and there's things happening in their life that's contributing to that isn't getting addressed, like you're helping, you can only do so much in this room.
Yeah.
How much do you have to guide patients on what's happening outside of this room to help with what they're experiencing?
Yeah, I mean, I am a homework giver. I love the homework. I love like sending people home with like gratitude lists. I've probably given you something at some point of like, just check in with yourself every day. How often you're having these thoughts, and you can replace them with these thoughts. And sometimes people just aren't ready to let go of whatever is kind of getting in the way of their healing, and that's okay, you know? Yeah. If they're showing up, that means they're as willing as they can be for certain things. And you know, sometimes those will pass and sometimes they won't. But I'm just kind of here as like a support when people are ready, or doing what we can, and kind of challenging them as, you know, as like a delicate dance, that I've kind of figured out a lot more about, not to push someone too much, or, you know, be too afraid to say something that they are uncomfortable to hear. Yeah, every person is different, but I'm grateful that I get to be a part of people's journeys, whatever they look like.
Yeah. I like that you said delicate dance, because I know in my healing journey and just learning more about myself, and I've always been interested in psychology and mental health and well-being. I feel like sometimes I'm consuming it too much or learning too much.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like our society and, you know, this industry of well-being has almost like moved the needle too far, where people trying to work on yourself and heal is almost getting in the way of your healing, or it's becoming all too consuming?
Sure.
Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, I mean, well, you're a go-getter, so I can see your perspective on that. I don't think it's yes and no, you know, because I think it's never a bad thing that people becoming more aware of themselves and their energy and self-limiting beliefs, and like all these things are so new and so needed for so many people's healings. And of course, there's always going to be people that become kind of addicted to that, or, you know, just instead of just kind of like slowing it down and integrating it into your daily life and just living and allowing it to kind of like come into the fold. There's always going to be people like that. But I think that there's been more healing and kind of self-awareness and sense of community and support than there ever has been. And that's definitely not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I guess to kind of piggyback on that, it feels too like all of the self-healing and the emphasis on a lot of these healing modalities kind of puts this sense of pressure on people to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not reaching my true potential or living my best life, or I could be happier or feel better. And it's like, where do you find the balance of, like you said, kind of just integrating it slowly and seeing it, maybe affect your life in a positive way versus
having it be the main focus all the time, constantly trying to like heal or grow.
Yeah.
And versus being at peace with where you are in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's it can be tricky to define that dance and define that balance. And there is a lot of like comparing and perfectionism around it. You smile when I say that word. And for myself, I think I've experienced that as well, and I understand, like, I'm always wanting to be better. I'm always wanting to improve, and to see if I have any blind spots, and to see if I could fill in the spaces. But I think it's like doing what you can and leaving the rest. It's like letting go of the timeline, letting go of exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, life is just so messy, and it's designed that way for a reason, and it's okay. There's so much beauty in that imperfection, as uncomfortable as it can be sometimes. It's like, I'm going to show up and do the things, the energy healing, the spiritual healing that I can do that fits my life, where it's not overshadowing other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then let go, and I'm going to, not do the things that I should be doing. And that's part of it too. I'll come back to it when I get uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. What, aside from acupuncture, so you said you get treatments yourself, what other things do you incorporate into your life to maintain health and well-being?
Like my self-care routine?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a self-care queen.
Besides Bravo.
Yeah, Real Housewives of whatever is like a good
very
check
healing.
Out. It is, we need to like check out every once in a while. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
I get massages. I do a pedicure. I'm all about all of that, like self-care and body work. I feel like we don't do nearly enough of that in our culture. I get acupuncture almost every week. Meeting with friends is like so healing. Like lunch with friends or whatever. Working out is like absolutely crucial for me. Getting to the pool as much as possible and just sitting there.
Yeah.
Staring into space and going down the windy slide. That's my self-care.
Is there anything in the wellness or healing space that you feel is a fad or isn't very worthwhile?
I don't think that's for me to kind of declare. I feel like there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't work for me, it might work for you.
Yeah.
And who am I to say, what is real or not, because, it might be the thing that person, that one or a bunch of people need,
Okay. Is there anything else you want to share about acupuncture that you want people to know, or any little tidbits or things that are particular to you in your practice?
I would say for people that haven't tried it, give it a try. I think people get so hung up on the needle, and in my practice, the needles are such a tiny fraction of the actual treatment, and there's so much healing to be had with this modality. And what a lot of people also don't know is that our scope of practice is so huge. So there's some body work included, like tuina, gua sha, like having a moment right now with everyone on their gua sha facial tools. Cupping had a moment. Like that all came from Chinese medicine. I'm a Chinese herbalist too. A lot of us are. And there's Chinese herbs are so powerful and so incredible. And they're about to have a moment. I really, like ashwagandha and reishi and like all these herbs that are now getting the spotlight and figuring out like how incredible they are. Most of that is Chinese. It's from other backgrounds and cultures, but it's been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years, and it's just so incredible. And so a lot of people are looking for other ways to treat themselves other than Western medicine. It definitely has a place and it's very powerful and important, but check out Chinese medicine because it's really powerful.
I know you mentioned earlier that every acupuncture practitioner can be so different and vary. How do you suggest or recommend that somebody find somebody that's right for them?
That's a hard one. It's like, do the research, get referrals.
Yeah.
You know, it's like referrals are the best way. Check reviews, things like that. Just kind of like this is wooey, but like feel them out. You know, if you see their picture and you're vibing with them, like go for it and just try them out. If it doesn't work, try someone else. It's like finding a therapist. Like sometimes you have to go through like a few of them to find someone that like you really resonate with.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good. Well, we're good on time.
Okay.
I have one more question. Okay. So the tagline or mantra of the podcast is expand on what serves you, release what doesn't, and just live.
Okay.
So right now in your life, what is it you'd like to expand on, and what is it that you're hoping to release?
I love this question. I think I want to expand on bringing more love into my own heart, you know, allowing myself to be imperfect, allowing myself to, be messy. I'm always preaching it, but I have to practice it too. We've all come a distance on our own healing, but there's always farther. There's always space to go, and I feel like it's like a peeling of onion. So I'm just bringing more self-love into the mix and self-honoring. And so letting go of, I guess, perfectionism, but also like what I thought I was going to be. You know, I'm really proud of how far I've come. And there's also that ego that comes in like, oh, I'd rather be here or I'd rather have this. And so letting go of those preconceived notions of what it would look like at this age.
Yeah.
Even though it's incredible, you know, there's always that voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate you sitting down with me and telling me more.
I'm honored that you asked. Beyond.
Thank you.
Thank you.